Hey folks, so this is Sam from Edwards, Virginia Smokehouse, and welcome to Cured Meat Q&A, where my dad and curemaster Sam Edwards, along with our wholesale manager Keith Roberts, answer your questions about all things country ham and the world of cured meats. How is COVID-19 affecting Edwards' meat supply chain and the pork industry in general?
Well, currently, we're in mid-April 2020. There's an abundance of fresh pork right now. The freezers are full. The pork market pricing has plummeted. I'm not sure that that's going to remain the same because many plants are starting to shut down, I think temporarily. Um, there's a large amount of uh, hogs in on the hoof still ready to be harvested, and once the plants start back up again, then I think the pork supply is going to be refilled. The problem right now is the pipelines going to the grocery stores are too small. So if I don't know what the numbers are, but let's say 50% of the meat that's consumed in this country goes to restaurants and 50% to the grocery stores. Uh, Now they're all trying to run, or majority of us trying to run to the grocery stores. It's just the distribution center systems are too blocked up to get that amount of meat to the grocery stores. Um, Online sources like edwardsvaham.com, we're able to give customers an option to buy our products online versus through some of the specialty food stores and grocery stores. I mean, we've got plenty of good customers out there that can get our products still, but again, distribution becomes a problem, getting it through the distribution chain. Um, some of the things that some of the stores are struggling with is to decide whether or not they continue to offer our product through the deli. So temporarily they may have shut down, but I think they're going to open back up again. Um, at the end of the day, I think the whole way that people buy food is going to be maybe a year from now before it even gets close to normal again. And even then, people's buying habits are going to change, I think. People are going to get used to ordering online and picking up at the grocery store, using these Instacart and all these different chains that offer a way to buy online, and you just pull up to the store and open your trunk and they load it in and away you go, or ordering food online like you can through edwardsvaham.com. Are we able? I think we're going to be able to survive through this. We hope we can. We were already in the hunker down mode because of the fire, and so we were already in the lean and mean position to begin with. So that's been somewhat helpful for us. It's still going to be difficult. Our stores are only doing a very small portion of what they did prior to the fire. Um, um, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be very, very difficult for us to get through this, especially since it's not a 30-day solution. This is 12-month, maybe an 18-month process, and it's not just a flow of meat. It's the economy. I wish I could predict what impact that's going to have, but we talk about the crystal ball all the time here, and in my lifetime, I've never seen anything like this. Even though people talk about the Depression and what impact that had on this country, I just have no clue.
With the pork supply, we are fortunate enough to still be working with some great chefs out there who've gotten creative, both regionally and nationally, with some curbside to go. A lot of our friends in Richmond and throughout the South Side here in Hampton Roads are doing what they can to support their community as well as their staff by really pushing the curbside to go, but they're struggling, no question about it. We do have product. We can get it to them. The food service distributors are doing what they can, but where we've really seen this shift, as Sam said, is over on the grocery side. So a lot of our regional grocers, Wegmans, Kroger, Fresh Market down through Carolina, are seeing some pretty strong movement. And we're actually in conversation with them right now about a shift over to more of the prepackaged retail items as opposed to slicing out of the deli. I do think the deli business will come back. They can pre-slice by the pound, and but we're working with them and assuring them that we can get them product when they need it. As long as and so far, we're fortunate that our production pipeline is still in pretty good shape.
What factor does smoking play in the curing process?
The benefits to, well, the curing part. So in Virginia, after it goes to the salting process, uh, we typically would smoke. We go through the springtime process, and then which is raising the temperature up to duplicate the springtime temperatures and to dry the surface of the ham, and it's part of the curing process. But then we would start smoking the hams at a little bit warmer temperature. And the benefits of smoking helps the surface condition of the ham protect it against bacteria growth. I'm not sure that most people on the country farm knew the benefits, but we knew that smoking a ham versus, say, air drying it, the ham, you had less spoilage with a ham that was smoked versus a ham that was just hanging in a building that wasn't smoked. Plus, smoke in a smokehouse, insects don't like smoke. So it was a deterrent to insect infestation. And then the side benefit was the flavor profile. Those of us in Virginia kind of like the flavor of smoke on their meat. You go in other parts of the world, they don't do that. And I'm not sure why, but we've always liked it.
And think, Sammy, what it really does come back to the flavor profile. That's something that, the chefs that I'm fortunate enough to work with on the wholesale side, that's something that they really look for. In the case of, the country ham where it's a mellower smoke, the Suriano, it's a hint on the backside that chefs really like. When you get into our hickory smoked bacon, again, a subtler smoke. Some guys out there doing dry cure bacon will throw a double smoke on there that's so intense. And I see it better as a seasoning meat to bring some of that natural smoke into the flavor profile. The smoked sausage, phenomenal little boost to the flavor profile where, it brings a really nice addition between the natural casing and the smoke. That one pairs up beautifully. Actually, I prefer it over a lot of andouille sausages out there because I think that smoke does bring a really unique flavor profile to the dishes that you can work it in with. And of course, the color. That rich mahogany color that we get on the hams, that we get on those sausages, people eat with their eyes. And when you're looking at a gorgeous mahogany ham or some beautiful mahogany smoked sausage out there, it just lends itself to, it's going to taste good when it looks that good.
Will Edwards bring back the Dan Doodle?
The Dan Doodle is the large casing or part of the intestine of the pig. Is the very end of the pig. It's called the bung, and it's stuffed with sausage. I mean, I don't know how many people have ever heard the story about they use every part of the pig except for the squeal. Well, this is the very end of the pig, and typically in the country, you would stuff it with country sausage. It's about the size of a softball when you stuff it, and then you would take a piece of string and tie it off, and you would hang it up in the smokehouse and smoke it. It's got a really funky, the casing itself is a really, really, really funky smell. As a kid, I used to have to wash those casings, and it would get on your hands, and I'd have to take like 5 showers and wash my hands 10 times to get the funk off. But you get used to it after a while. But when we hung them up in the coolers before we smoked them too, it imparted a unique smell. But once you smoked it, and typically you would let them chill down for a couple of days, run them in the smokehouse, smoke them with get an internal temperature up to about 145 degrees, take them out, chill them down, and box them. And then when you go to cook them, most people would drop them into a pot of like collard greens to season the greens, um, and then take the Dan Doodle out and chill it a little bit at say room temperature, let it cool off, and then slice it into slices, and then you'd have your meat and greens all in one cooking. Or take the Dan Doodle and slice it and fry it before, right out of the refrigerator. Slice it and fry it for breakfast, or actually, it goes pretty good with fried apples. The question was, are we going to start making that again when and if we rebuild? The answer would be probably, crazy enough, the Dan Doodle casings used to be like 20 cents a piece. And 4 years ago, they were jumped up to like $1.50 a piece. So if you only put 2 pounds of sausage in a casing, that's 75 cents a pound in casing costs. That's crazy high. That's crazy high. That's just, I'm not sure that's economically feasible. And I'm not sure why that product casing costs are so high. So I'd have to find another source for casings unless people are okay with that kind of cost. I'm not sure. But it is unique, and I'm not sure if it's regional or not, but there are definitely fans of that product, and very outspoken folks too. They like that product and they want it back.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Sam brought up the regional aspect behind it. And, in our world, we call them a Dan Doodle here in Virginia. You go down into North Carolina, they're sometimes called a Tom Thumb. Uh, some call it the middle cap, some call it some say they use the appendix of the hog, which I think is a really nice way to say they're using. I refer to it as the most natural casing that you're ever going to get from a hog. To stuff that in. But it really is a super unique product. And, Sam mentioned greens. It's the best pot of greens I've ever made. We actually were fortunate enough to have John T. Edge come up. And John T. did an article about the Dan Doodle. The picture shot is Sam hanging up, leaning up against one of the original smokehouses in Surrey, holding a couple of Dan Doodles. You won't use this in the video, but it does have kind of a truck nut appearance, the way the two Dan Doodles are hanging down. Certainly a unique product behind it, but chefs really look for it, and I think our direct to consumers, there's for some reason a passion about using the Dan Doodle. When John T came up to actually do the interview, God, Sam, I probably did 5 dishes for him. And whether it was a Dan Doodle Benedict, a Dan Doodle sandwich, I did some fried green tomatoes with a Dan Doodle. That one actually kind of caught him off guard because the greens weren't quite ready. So I did a fried green tomato over top of a Dan Doodle with some crumbled goat cheese, which kind of helped cover some of the funk out of the casing, and then a balsamic vinegar reduction to bring a little sweetness to it and a little bit more tart to it. And when I took it into the conference room and put it down in front of John T, he said, "What the hell is this?" I said, "Man, the greens aren't ready. I'm just pulling stuff out now." But it's one of those flavor profiles, like with all of our product, using it as an ingredient, bring the chemistry of the food into it, and have some fun and play around with something that's, old school that can be brought into new school and bring some really cool flavor. I would love to see him back. Hopefully we'll be able to make that happen.
When my daughter Stephanie got married, and the editor of the local paper was there, who happens to be a cousin too, said that only Sam Edwards would serve Dan Doodles at his daughter's reception. So I thought that was, among many, many other things, but we had bacon and ham and the whole, if anything that was pork, we served it. I'm trying to remember now. I think it was Dan Doodles and crab meat. it was a combination that we served. Uh, and actually, Bizarre Foods, it, the real reason why they came initially was because of the Dan Doodle, even though they spent most of their time filming about the Suriano. The original hook was about watching us make the Dan Doodle.
Got a cured meat question? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.